Men are moved by two levers only: fear and self-interest. Napoleon Bonaparte. Most people believe conversations are about exchanging information. They think that if they just present their facts clearly and logically, they'll win the day. That's a naive fantasy. Conversations are battlefields. They are subtle dances of power, influence, and control. Every interaction is a silent negotiation, a push and pull for dominance. You're either shaping the reality of the interaction or being shaped by it. To ignore this is to be a pawn in someone else's game. To understand it is to begin to wield real influence. We aren't interested in surface-level pleasantries or polite agreements. We are focused on the unspoken rules, the hidden contracts that govern every social exchange. We dissect the architecture of influence, exposing the subtle maneuvers people use to gain an advantage. This is about seeing the world as it truly is, a constant struggle for position and leverage. Consider the person who always seems to effortlessly get their way. They're not necessarily louder or more aggressive. They've mastered the art of setting the frame, defining the terms of engagement, and subtly guiding the conversation to their desired outcome. They understand the power of suggestion, the impact of body language, and the ability to control the narrative. They recognize that words are merely tools and that the real communication happens beneath the surface, in the realm of subtext and implication. We teach you to see these hidden signals, to decipher the unspoken language of power, and to understand the mechanics of social control. We explore the unspoken rules, the subtle cues, and the psychological strategies that determine who leads and who follows. Think about that meeting where one person's idea was instantly adopted while another's was dismissed without a second thought. Was it simply the merit of the idea itself? Unlikely. It was about how the idea was presented, the confidence with which it was delivered, and the existing power dynamics at play. It was about who had the social capital, who commanded respect, and who knew how to subtly influence the group's perception. This is the invisible game we are revealing. We show you how to analyze these situations, how to identify the key players, and how to understand their motivations. We equip you with the tools to navigate these complex social landscapes and to achieve your own objectives with precision and skill. It's not about manipulation in the negative sense, but about recognizing the manipulation that is always present and learning to navigate it effectively. It's about self-defense in the social arena. The world doesn't reward the most deserving. It rewards those who understand the rules of the game and play them well. Those who believe in a meritocracy are often the most easily manipulated because they are blind to the underlying power dynamics. They assume that if they are simply good enough, their talents will be recognized and rewarded. But the reality is far more complex. Success in any field requires not only competence, but also the ability to navigate social structures, build alliances, and influence others. This is the reality that most people ignore, the reality that we expose. We teach you to see the world not as you wish it were, but as it truly is, a complex and often ruthless competition for resources, status, and influence. We delve into the anatomy of a social takeover, dissecting the subtle moves and calculated strategies that allow one individual to dominate a group or situation. We analyze how they establish dominance, control the flow of conversation, and subtly undermine their rivals. We reveal the techniques they use to create alliances, build consensus, and ultimately achieve their goals. This isn't about promoting aggression or ruthlessness. It's about understanding how these dynamics work so you can protect yourself from being manipulated, and so you can assert your own influence when necessary. It's about recognizing the silent power dynamics that shape our world and learning to navigate them with awareness and intention. The human mind is wired for social connection, but this very wiring makes us vulnerable. We are constantly seeking approval, validation, and a sense of belonging. This inherent need can be exploited by those who understand the architecture of influence. They know how to trigger our emotions, how to play on our insecurities, and how to manipulate our desire for social acceptance. They use subtle cues, unspoken agreements, and carefully crafted narratives to shape our perceptions and control our behavior. This isn't always malicious. Sometimes it is unconscious, but the effect is the same. Our choices are no longer entirely our own. We are acting in accordance with someone else's agenda, driven by forces we don't even recognize. This is why self-awareness is the first line of defense. Understanding your own psychological vulnerabilities is crucial to protecting yourself from manipulation. You must be aware of your biases, your fears, and your desires, so that you can recognize when someone is trying to exploit them. Hidden social contracts are the invisible rules that govern our interactions. These unspoken agreements dictate how we behave in different social situations, who has power, and what is expected of us. They are learned through observation, imitation, and social conditioning. From a young age, we are taught to conform to these norms, often without even realizing it. But these social contracts are not always fair or equitable. They can be used to maintain the status quo, to reinforce existing power structures, and to suppress dissent. Those who understand these contracts can use them to their advantage, manipulating others into complying with their wishes. They know how to leverage social pressure, how to invoke feelings of guilt or obligation, and how to enforce these unspoken rules. Learning to identify these hidden contracts is essential for navigating the social landscape with awareness and agency. You must question the assumptions that underpin these agreements, and you must be willing to challenge them when they are unjust or harmful. Subtext is the language of power. It is the unspoken message that lies beneath the surface of our words. It is conveyed through tone of voice, body language, and subtle cues. Those who are skilled at reading subtext can understand what is really being said, even when the words themselves are ambiguous or misleading. They can detect hidden agendas, identify unspoken desires, and decipher the true intentions of others. This ability is crucial for navigating complex social situations and for protecting yourself from deception. Pay attention not just to what people say, but to how they say it. Observe their body language, their facial expressions, and their tone of voice. Look for inconsistencies between their words and their actions. The key to mastering subtext is to develop your emotional intelligence and your ability to empathize with others. By understanding their motivations, their fears, and their desires, you can better interpret their unspoken messages. Submission is not always a sign of weakness. It can be a strategic maneuver, a way to de-escalate conflict, or a means of gaining leverage. However, it can also be a sign of manipulation, a way for someone to exert control over you by undermining your confidence and your sense of self-worth. Recognizing the difference between strategic submission and genuine subjugation is crucial for maintaining your autonomy and protecting your boundaries. Strategic submission involves consciously choosing to yield in a particular situation in order to achieve a larger goal. It is a calculated decision, not a surrender of your power. Genuine subjugation, on the other hand, involves internalizing the belief that you are inferior or powerless. It is a surrender of your will, a loss of your sense of self. Watch for patterns of behavior that indicate a consistent attempt to undermine your confidence, belittle your accomplishments, or control your actions. These are all signs of manipulation, and they should be addressed immediately. Every conversation is a chess match, a subtle dance of power and influence. Each player is trying to anticipate the other's moves, to control the flow of the conversation, and to ultimately achieve their desired outcome. Some players are aware of this game, while others are not. Those who are unaware are often at a disadvantage because they are not consciously strategizing or protecting themselves from manipulation. Understanding the rules of this conversational chess match is essential for asserting your own influence and protecting yourself from being manipulated. Pay attention to the opening moves, the positioning, and the traps that are being set. Learn to anticipate your opponent's moves, to control the narrative, and to steer the conversation towards your desired outcome. Remember, the goal is not to win at all costs, but to engage in a productive and mutually beneficial exchange. Reading human chess requires a deep understanding of psychology, strategy, and social dynamics. It involves observing the players, analyzing their motives, and anticipating their moves. It requires a keen eye for detail, an ability to read subtext, and a willingness to challenge assumptions. It is a skill that can be learned and honed through practice and observation. Start by paying attention to your own behavior in social situations. Analyze your own motivations, your own strategies, and your own vulnerabilities. Then begin to observe the behavior of others. Watch how they interact, how they communicate, and how they exert influence. Look for patterns of behavior, for subtle cues, and for unspoken messages. Over time, you will develop a deeper understanding of the human chess game, and you will become more adept at navigating the social landscape. The anatomy of a social takeover involves a series of calculated steps, each designed to weaken the target and strengthen the aggressor. It begins with identifying vulnerabilities, exploiting weaknesses, and undermining confidence. It progresses to isolating the target, controlling the narrative, and creating a sense of dependency. It culminates in the complete subjugation of the target's will. Recognizing these stages is crucial for preventing a social takeover from happening. Early detection is key. Pay attention to subtle shifts in power dynamics, to changes in communication patterns, and to signs of isolation. If you suspect that a social takeover is underway, take immediate action to protect yourself and to support the target. Build alliances, challenge the aggressor's narrative, and reassert your own authority. Remember, the best defense is a strong offense. Consider the scenario of a new manager, fresh out of business school, entering a well-established team with its own deeply ingrained culture and unspoken rules. Sarah, the new manager, is enthusiastic and eager to implement the latest management techniques she learned in her MBA program. She envisions streamlining processes, increasing efficiency, and fostering a more collaborative environment. However, she fails to recognize the existing power dynamics within the team, the subtle hierarchies, and the complex web of relationships that have been built over years. Initially, Sarah attempts to assert her authority by making sweeping changes without consulting the team members. She introduces new software, restructures reporting lines, and implements performance metrics, all without understanding the practical implications or the impact on individual workloads. This immediately creates resistance from the veteran team members, particularly John, a senior developer who has been with the company for over a decade and wields significant influence. John doesn't openly confront Sarah, but instead, he subtly undermines her initiatives. During team meetings, he raises hypothetical scenarios that highlight the potential problems with Sarah's proposed changes. He uses his extensive knowledge of the company's history and past failures to cast doubt on her strategies. His tone is always polite and respectful, but his message is clear. Sarah's ideas are impractical and ill-conceived. Other team members, sensing John's disapproval, begin to follow his lead. They express their concerns to Sarah privately, citing the potential for disruption and the lack of clear benefits. They become less responsive to her requests and less engaged in her initiatives. Sarah, feeling increasingly frustrated and isolated, tries to regain control by asserting her authority more forcefully. She starts micromanaging tasks, demanding daily updates and scrutinizing every decision. This only exacerbates the situation, creating a climate of fear and resentment. The team members become even more resistant, and their performance begins to decline. John, meanwhile, continues to subtly undermine Sarah's authority by cultivating relationships with other departments and bypassing her to communicate directly with upper management. He positions himself as the voice of reason, the experienced professional who understands the company's culture and knows what will and won't work. He subtly paints Sarah as an inexperienced outsider who is out of touch with reality. Over time, Sarah's credibility within the company erodes. Her superiors begin to question her judgment and her ability to lead the team. They start seeking John's input on important decisions, effectively sidelining Sarah. Eventually, Sarah is reassigned to a different role, and John is unofficially recognized as the de facto leader of the team. This scenario illustrates a classic social takeover. John, through subtle manipulation and strategic alliances, effectively usurped Sarah's authority and regained control of the team. He never openly challenged her, but instead, he used his knowledge of the company's culture and his established relationships to undermine her from within. Sarah, in her eagerness to assert her authority, failed to recognize the existing power dynamics and the importance of building relationships. She made the mistake of alienating the team members and creating an environment of resistance. This allowed John to exploit her vulnerabilities and orchestrate a silent takeover. The key takeaway from this scenario is the importance of understanding the subtle dynamics of power and influence within any social group. Recognizing the warning signs of a social takeover, such as subtle undermining, strategic alliances, and erosion of credibility, is crucial for protecting yourself and maintaining control. It requires a keen awareness of human behavior, a willingness to challenge assumptions, and the ability to build strong relationships. Sarah's failure serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of ignoring the invisible social game that is always being played. The trap is always baited with perceived opportunity. It whispers promises of advancement, recognition, and belonging, drawing the vulnerable into its insidious embrace. Those who succumb to the trap share a common flaw, a desperate need for external validation. They seek approval from others, crave the spotlight, and fear being overlooked. This insecurity makes them easily manipulated, their actions dictated by the opinions and desires of those around them. They become puppets on strings, dancing to the tune of social approval. They fail to see the larger game being played, blinded by the immediate gratification of fleeting praise. Their judgment becomes clouded, their decision-making compromised. This weakness is ruthlessly exploited by those who understand the architecture of influence. The ambitious ladder climber, eager to impress a superior, might compromise their values or betray a colleague. The attention seeker, desperate for validation, might reveal sensitive information or engage in self-destructive behavior. The people pleaser, terrified of conflict, might agree to demands that undermine their own interests. All these actions, driven by the need for external validation, weaken their position and make them susceptible to manipulation. The ability to detach from this need is paramount. It requires cultivating an inner sense of worth, independent of external opinions. True strength comes from knowing your own values and acting in accordance with them, regardless of the social consequences. This doesn't mean becoming insensitive or uncaring, but rather prioritizing your own integrity and well-being above the fleeting approval of others. The weak often fall into the trap because they are reactive rather than proactive. They respond to external stimuli without pausing to consider the long-term consequences. They allow their emotions to dictate their actions, making them impulsive and unpredictable. A perceived slight can trigger anger, a fleeting compliment can elicit blind trust, and a hint of rejection can spark desperate attempts to regain approval. This emotional volatility makes them easy targets for manipulation. A skilled manipulator can trigger these emotions at will, guiding their actions like a puppeteer. The antidote to this reactivity is self-awareness. It involves recognizing your own emotional triggers and understanding how they influence your behavior. It requires cultivating the ability to pause before reacting, to assess the situation objectively, and to choose a response that aligns with your long-term goals. This conscious awareness creates a buffer between stimulus and response, allowing you to regain control of your actions. Another common mistake is underestimating the power of silence. The weak often feel compelled to fill every silence with chatter, revealing unnecessary information and giving away their position. They fear the awkwardness of quiet moments, unaware that silence can be a powerful tool. Silence creates discomfort in others, prompting them to fill the void with information. It allows you to observe and analyze without revealing your own thoughts or intentions. A skilled negotiator understands the power of silence, using it to extract concessions and gain the upper hand. Learning to embrace silence is a crucial step in mastering social dynamics. It requires cultivating a sense of inner peace and comfort in your own presence. It means resisting the urge to fill every moment with noise and allowing the silence to speak for itself. The weak also fail to recognize the importance of building genuine connections. They focus on superficial interactions, seeking to impress others with their accomplishments or charm. They treat relationships as transactional, seeking to extract value without offering genuine support or understanding. This superficiality is easily detected and ultimately undermines their ability to build trust. True power comes from building authentic relationships based on mutual respect and genuine connection. It involves taking a genuine interest in others, listening attentively to their concerns, and offering support without expecting anything in return. These genuine connections create a network of trust and loyalty, providing a powerful shield against manipulation. Finally, the weak often lack a clear understanding of their own values and goals. They drift through life without a sense of purpose, easily swayed by the opinions and desires of others. They fail to define their own boundaries, allowing others to encroach upon their time, energy, and resources. This lack of clarity makes them vulnerable to manipulation. When you don't know what you stand for, you will fall for anything. Defining your values and setting clear goals is essential for maintaining control in social interactions. It provides a framework for making decisions and resisting manipulation. When you know what you want and what you stand for, you are less likely to be swayed by external pressure. You can confidently assert your boundaries and resist attempts to control your actions. The trap is not a physical structure, but a psychological one. It is built on insecurity, reactivity, superficiality, and a lack of clarity. By recognizing these vulnerabilities and cultivating the corresponding strengths, you can avoid the trap and navigate the complex landscape of social dynamics with confidence and control. The architecture of influence favors those who understand the game, not those who blindly stumble into it. Understanding these failings is the first step to ensuring you don't become a victim of subtle, silent, social takeover. The understanding of these hidden social contracts, the architecture of influence, is not merely academic. It is a survival skill. It dictates who rises and who falls, who leads and who follows, who controls and who is controlled. Every interaction, every exchange is a negotiation, a subtle dance of power. Those who are unaware of this dance are destined to be led, to be used, to be manipulated. They become pawns in a game they don't even know they're playing. The capacity to read subtext, to discern the unspoken desires and hidden agendas, is the key to unlocking this game. It's about seeing beyond the surface, about recognizing the subtle cues and micro-expressions that betray true intentions. It's about understanding the language of power, the subtle signals of dominance and submission that are constantly being exchanged. This is the real architecture of influence. Those who master it can shape the social landscape to their advantage, orchestrating events and influencing outcomes with masterful precision. It demands detachment, an ability to observe social dynamics with clinical objectivity. It requires a constant analysis of motivations, both your own and those of others. Every word, every gesture, every silence must be scrutinized for its underlying meaning. This analytical approach is not about paranoia or distrust. It's about understanding the reality of human interaction. People are not always what they seem, and their words do not always reflect their true intentions. To succeed in the social arena, you must be able to see through the facade and recognize the underlying power dynamics at play. The silent power dynamic is always at play. It's there in the boardroom, in the bedroom, in every social gathering. Those who are aware of it have a distinct advantage. They can anticipate their opponent's moves, neutralize their influence, and ultimately control the narrative. This is not about brute force or overt aggression. It's about subtle manipulation, about shaping perceptions and influencing decisions through carefully crafted words and actions. It's about controlling the frame, about defining the terms of the interaction and dictating the flow of conversation. When you control the frame, you control the reality. Those who attempt to control you will use various tactics: guilt tripping, emotional blackmail, intimidation, and even feign helplessness. Recognizing these tactics is crucial for defending yourself against manipulation. When you are aware of these strategies, you can disarm them by refusing to engage in the emotional game. Remain calm, assertive, and focused on your own goals. Do not allow yourself to be swayed by their emotional appeals or threats. The ability to walk away from a manipulative situation is a powerful tool. It demonstrates that you are not easily controlled and that you value your own well-being. Sometimes the best way to win a game is to refuse to play. The mastery of social dynamics is a lifelong pursuit, requiring constant vigilance and continuous learning, but the rewards are immense. Those who understand the game can navigate the social landscape with confidence and control, achieving their goals and protecting themselves from manipulation. The key is to remain aware, analytical, and detached. Never underestimate the power of subtext, the architecture of influence, and the silent